talking about student engagement and how student engagement is related to the student response systems. Basically, I had to do a research inquiry on something that involved technology, and so I wanted to use something that my kids would actually use and something that I haven't used in my classroom before. So I ended up using a student response system. Basically, what that means is it's a form of technology where they get to provide immediate feedback based on a question that I ask, and then I can in turn see their response and then guide my instruction from that response. So that's why I chose that, because I knew that technology is interesting and my kids love technology, and so I wanted to use something that I knew they would be excited about and interested in. So just a little background about my classroom. I have 3 math classes that have about 15 students in each class. I have 2 classes of special ed students, and there are EL students kind of peppered in each one of my classes. I teach small group math every day, so I use the student response systems in my small group activities as well.
So you can use these student responses in small groups?
You can. I tried whole group and small group both to see kind of where they were more engaged, where it worked better. So I'll kind of get into my research and how that worked in just a minute. So our school central thing this year is engagement, so I wanted to make sure that I did some research on engagement. My goal is to make sure that my kids are engaged the entire 90 minutes that I have them. And so I have various ranges of abilities in my classes. So I have the highest to the struggling, and so it's difficult sometimes to keep them all engaged all at the same time. So I knew that I wanted to incorporate technology, so I did a little bit of research to decide what I wanted to discover. So some of the wonderings that I had were, how can I incorporate these student response systems into my mathematics instruction so that it will increase student engagement in my classroom? And that was kind of my focus. And then I wanted to know how I could incorporate it into whole group and small group, and then how I could use it for some of my struggling students, and what were some of the benefits of it. So to set up my research, I made sure that I started with a pre-assessment. We were starting multiplication when I began my research, so I did a pre-assessment of what they knew, what they didn't know, and I kind of went from there. So for about 2 months, I did different kinds of research where I would give them multiple different kinds of student response activities where I would have questions on the board. It's basically using formative assessment, and so just to kind of check their understanding as I'm going throughout my lesson, to kind of see how they were engaged. I would use my teacher observation to kind of see their attitudes as they were working. I used a survey that I asked them questions whether or not they were engaged or not. Throughout those 2 months, I kind of just asked them questions, interviewed them to see if they were interested, if they were engaged, if they liked using the student response systems. And then for the last month, I've been kind of collecting my data and analyzing it and deciding whether or not it was, in fact, engaging or not. So, as they learned, I found out that the use of the student response system that focused on my multiplication really helped my students to stay engaged throughout my whole group lesson, when sometimes in previous lessons they hadn't been as engaged. So I knew that it was working. I just had to kind of collect more data to figure out how it was working. So as I did that, as I interviewed and as I observed and as I asked them questions, I found that they felt like it was fun and exciting. And if you start using it in your classroom, you'll see they love it. Like they were excited, they were engaged the entire time, they were having fun. They liked this new form of technology. And just some comments that I had during my survey were something like, can we use them every day? They wanted to do it every day. It was so much fun because they weren't just answering with pencil and paper like they're used to. They were using technology, they were getting their immediate response, and then the student response system keeps score, so they actually get to have a winner at the end to see who's in the top 5, and so they enjoy that. As I did collect my data, there were about 5 students out of my 45 who really weren't that interested, so I kind of did some other research and some more inquiry about why they didn't really like it. Here are some pictures about of my kids and how they enjoyed it. I know my smart board's kind of dull, but you can tell they have smiles on their faces. They've got their workout, they're writing, they're really.
Oh,
Can you
yeah.
see? Yeah. I think my light bulb is about to go out, but they're really excited. They're interested in what they're doing. So during small group instruction, I wanted to make sure that that they had an opportunity to be partnered, because I thought maybe that was the reason why some of my kids didn't really like it, because they weren't partnered up. And so I thought maybe if I partnered them together, that might would help. And so most students were more willing to work with a partner, and they were engaged throughout the lesson. Those 5 students that I found that didn't really like it, all but 2 of them, after they got a partner, they were like, okay, I like this. They were more engaged, they were interested. And after I interviewed them, I kind of dug a little deeper and found out why. And most of the reason they didn't like it was because they were kind of embarrassed that their score was low. There was one of them that said that the kids laughed at her because they saw her score and they saw that she wasn't doing as well as the other ones. Even though it's supposed to be anonymous, like they kind of figured out who kept missing it. And so they were kind of frustrated and they had a lack of confidence in what they were doing. So once I partnered them up, their engagement really increased from that. So after we moved to small group instruction, I still had 2 students who were just completely, their attitudes were terrible. They just really did not care. One of them is just really frustrated with math and just is overwhelmed by the difficulty of Common Core and just is not motivated, and so we kind of have to overcome those struggles. And then the other one was very stressed about the score that he just completely shut down and he didn't want to do anything. So, the good thing about it was my excelling students, they're already self-motivated, they're determined to win, they're very competitive, they beg to play every day. And they compete against each other for the highest score. They always want to be at the top. So they're always wanting to be, at the top of the score. So what I've used that to help develop higher level questioning for them so that I can really push them and excel them even more, because they want to beat that other person and they want to figure out the answers to those questions so that they are kind of beating their teammates. So when they collaborated with others, that seemed to really keep them motivated and encouraged throughout the lesson. I kind of incorporated that a minute ago. But positive things about collaboration were that most of them enjoyed it during small group instruction. They got to share their ideas with somebody before they answered, so they didn't have that fear of embarrassment. They worked together, they were more confident, and it limited their off-task behavior because they had somebody to kind of be accountable to. Some of the negatives were that some of my more confident students, they didn't really want to work with a partner because they wanted, they wanted their own score. That's exactly right. They wanted their name on that paper. They wanted to be the only one that won. And then some of my special needs students, they didn't benefit because they were kind of frustrated. They needed more direct instruction, some more small group intensive instruction during that time. So they were kind of just taking answers from people.
Is that when they work by themselves or with the partner?
When they worked with a partner, yeah. By themselves, their scores were just low. So when they worked with a partner, it's they stay a little bit more on task, but I can't really tell if it's just somebody else, giving them the answers, or if, they're actually trying to input too. So I have to watch them more carefully. So just some concluding thoughts, and we'll kind of wrap up. The technology kept the students very interested. I would say out of 45 students, if 5 of them struggled, 40 of them were engaged throughout the lesson. I think that pretty much concludes that this student response systems really do help to increase engagement, and that they are an effective way to raise student engagement. All students must participate. The lessons are not dominated by one student answering questions, because you always have that one, who knows everything and wants to answer every question. So with this, everybody has to participate. And they can be used effectively in small and whole group, which is always, a good thing. And then students enjoy them when we include the response systems, and they say that they're fun, exciting, and engaging. Anybody have any questions? And you'd like to know about them?
Are the lessons easy to create, the questions? Is it very time consuming?
Yes, some of the response systems are easier, more user-friendly than others. If you use a Kahoot, they're very user-friendly. they're web-based, you can log in and you can use that, and then you can use iPads or a computer if you don't have iPads to do. The Socrative website is the same way. Still, it's web-based, but it's a student response system that they can use. I have clickers that I can use, and they're not as user-friendly, and my kids don't really like them as well, so I really don't use them as much. I try to stick with the web-based student responses because they enjoy that more.
Cahoots is better than Socrative, or Socrative better than Cahoots?
It depends on what you're doing. Kahoot is more procedural type questions where you don't have to have a long response because it has a number of letters you can incorporate in the question, so you don't want it to be a really long question. But procedural type things, like grammar or math procedures you could do, vocabulary, yeah. But Socrative, you can type pretty much, I mean, you could type a paragraph question and then have answer choices and it would be okay. So I would, depending on what you're doing, I would use.
Can you use open-ended responses?
You can in Socrative, in Kahoot you can't, because Kahoot is just a multiple choice. And then Socrative you can choose true, false, multiple choice, or open-ended, yeah.
Can the quizzes be shared?
Yeah, you can make one and then you can share it among your other teacher groups, so that way it kind of eliminates a lot of your work, because you can send it.
Or you can make it public, couldn't you?
You can, so you can share it with other schools if you wanted to. You know, if you got a friend at one of the other schools, you could send it to them, sure.
On your special needs kids, could you make it on their level, but just give it only to the special needs
Sure.
children?
Yes.
Instead of the whole group?
Yes, because they need, yeah, and that would be something where you could differentiate some instruction and make sure that they are doing something on their level. Because, and that would be definitely something you want to do in the small group, because they could do that all together in their group and have something more on their level, more appropriate for them.
And that would make them feel more self-esteem too.
Yes, because they would know they're doing the same thing as the other kids, but they don't know that their questions are different.
Yeah.
So that would definitely be a good idea.
Did the kids enjoy small group or whole group better?
You know, I asked them that question in one of my surveys that I did, and most of them actually liked it better whole group because they had more opportunities to compete against the people. When you're in small group, there's only like 6 of them, and so they're not really competing against a big group of people. They like having more. So, if that's all, thank you so much for that. You can answer my quick survey. There's like 3 questions and then comment just real quick if you don't mind. Don't put your name on it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mr. Vita.